Hello, it's Friday night, and I'm joined on Friday nights by Mike Jones. Hello, Mike Jones.
Yes. Hello, Dale Matthews.
Yes. So we have been talking with the sheriff. Well, we've been talking to him a lot because we've got a lot of catching up to do about what the heck's going on in Josephine County. And so we've dedicated every Friday to a discussion with the sheriff about opinions of the day and some of the criticisms he's been getting and some of the responses that he has. We're not pulling punches. What's your favorite color? Who cares? It appears to be blue because it seems like every time he meets with us, he's wearing a blue shirt. Sometimes with a tie, sometimes without. But first, we're going to do a little continuation of a very important event that happened at yesterday's Thursday admin meeting. Mike, why don't you just set the stage for us about the Thursday admin meeting and the important thing that happened with Wally Hicks?
Wally basically came in and reminded the commissioners what the Oregon public meeting law states about how they should behave and how they should interact with one another. And they all appeared to be a bit distressed by the broadness of it, and that somehow they should not be discussing county business outside of open public meetings.
Well, should they be surprised? I mean, because no one's ever mentioned this to him before.
Yes, right, exactly. No, could it be that Dale Matthews has been correct all this time? I mean, this is the problem, that they automatically take an adversarial position towards Dale Matthews, and so they reject everything that he says. And then, when somebody comes in and reminds them that it's actually in the law, then it's, oh, geez.
Well, it's in writing. And the most important phrase, and this is, I have here, the piece of paper that he gave him. Now, this is now on county letterhead. And so that's a little different. It says, the meeting must be public if two or more commissioners simply gather information. This is state law. You may not like it. They hate this, but that's what it says. If they just gather information upon which a decision might be made. Now, Mike, you and I discussed when we were talking on Sundays with Wally Hicks, we discussed that there's something in a number of the amendments to the charter that says that the commissioners or no other elected official can make decisions that erode. That's an interesting word. They erode certain rights. What do you think that means, erode?
Well, I think if it can even be construed that what they are doing is damaging to one of the named rights that they are reaffirming in the charter, that is somehow a violation. And then, of course, later in those amendments, it talks about what should be done if it's determined that someone is eroding or violating or even eroding the law or the
intention of the voters.
Statute. Right, exactly.
Right. And now I contend that they've been conscrewing us for years about this kind of stuff. But what this thing says in the letter, that while it's been part of state law for years, okay? And it says you can't gather information. Well, look, this is easily, you can go to a Rotary Club meeting, share all the information you want to. You can hop up and down and scream and run around the room and gnaw on the furniture, like they sometimes accuse us of doing at the weekly business session, which we don't do. They can do that anytime, one at a time. You just can't have two commissioners there. And Simon Hare stated during yesterday, he's so funny because he'll say something and it cuts against his own argument. He does this all the time. And he says, well, yeah, I have to kind of admit that if two commissioners go to some kind of event and they gather information and then they form some kind of opinions, or even if they don't, they just gather information. Now they know stuff that I don't know. And then later when we have a discussion, well, I think that the thing, and he doesn't know what they're talking about.
Right. But they could certainly reiterate it right there, though, if they wanted to.
Well,
You
and but
know,
they don't often do that. Well, the guy about the thing about the what? I mean, we
right.
don't understand it either, and we're supposed to understand it
Well,
because
there's only one way you can talk in code, and that's if both people know what you're talking
yeah.
about. You
Well, I
know,
don't know about Keith X sometimes, but yes, that is the basis of it. And the perfect example of this, I mentioned this before. Just be patient with me. Um, Simon Hare says, I don't think that we should give this money to So Ready. It was a lot of money. It was either 50,000 or 75,000. I don't think we should give this money to So Ready because they're not doing us any good. They never have been doing us any good. Why? We always get the short end of the stick. So somehow, So Ready decides to throw some kind of banquet, and all three commissioners are invited. Not just to come and eat. Are you kidding me? They make a presentation to them. They're presenting about what So Ready is going to do for the county. It's county business. The three commissioners go and they say, well, this is purely, a social gathering. No, it's not. So Simon goes to this thing. He walks in the door thinking, I'm not going to give these guys any money. He listens to the presentation. He listens to the same things the other two commissioners are listening to. We're already convinced that So Ready is great. And he said later that when he walked out of the room, he was convinced that So Ready should get the money after all. So that means that he gathered information that it did lead to a future decision.
right? And you know what? There's this. I understand how people could get a little bit confused because gathering conjures this image that you're out. I'm gathering sticks so I can build a fire. It's like some sort of a physical action. If you're passively sitting there listening to somebody speaking, that is gathering information.
Right, and one would hope if you go to a Rotary Club meeting and you're the president of Rotary, as Cheryl was, that when people speak, that you're listening to them. Now, you can insist that you're not. Good luck in remaining president of Rotary if you're not even listening to your fellow members. Keith's excuse was, well, I wasn't seated near her. Keith, gather information that could potentially lead to a decision.
Right.
Well,
No, if you're both hearing the same stuff at the same time, that I mean, that's the misconception here. It needs to, you need to clear the fog off the mirror here. It's if two of them are sitting there, listen, it doesn't matter. They could be 100 feet apart.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They're both getting the same information that can influence a future decision.
Now, Mike, let's suppose that all three commissioners go to a bluegrass festival.
Mm.
Okay, there's one coming up in Cave Junction, right. and they go to listen to bluegrass music. No problem,
yeah.
Right?
Right, no problem.
When does it become a problem, Mike, if it ever does?
Well, if they were all seated together and they began to talk about, who was going to get the next round of economic development money, that would be then a violation.
Let's suppose that they're not seated together, that they're at various corners. They pick 3 of the 4 corners of this area, and they're all seated in different places. Mm-hmm. And then somebody gets up and says, boy, that's great bluegrass music. I sure hope that the county commissioners will blah, 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 blah.
Yes. Yes, I guess that's a problem. However, that would not have been an active thing on the part of the commissioners.
No, it wouldn't. But what are they required to do once that process begins? You can't do this. I mean, if it lasts for 3 seconds, we're not talking about maniacs. But if somebody gets up and starts to make
you could get on your phone and send out a Twitter message. A public meeting is now underway.
No, you must tell people 24 hours ahead of time. Okay?
So that's going to be impossible.
Well, that's right. It would be so 2 of them must leave. You got to go. You're not allowed to do that. Well, they've done that in the past. I mean, it's not. First of all, don't send 3 commissioners to something. Okay, if you think it's going to be just fun and games, going to a So Ready gathering where they have a presentation
Right.
This
Yes.
is not a social gathering. What do
Yes.
you, unless it's a
Yeah.
presentation about how the hors d'oeuvres were made. It's not a So Ready
Yeah.
is never going to be a social gathering. Give me a
Yeah.
break.
They're always going to pitch their product there.
And it worked. Simon changed his mind 180 degrees.
Uh,
Or in Simon's case, 360 degrees, because he argues all sides of the same argument on the same time.
so, perhaps we can get a refund.
Oh, yeah, buddy. What would you
Yes.
do if you were a commissioner? You know what? We're no longer a member of that organization or really any of the others because we can't even afford to pay for law enforcement. And why are we part of some organization where you have to travel to Northern California? And no, 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 no. If you really want to participate, do it from your office. You got this expensive equipment. You've got the big screen on the wall. Hopefully it's not set up like this. And you can participate or you can get on the phone or you can send them a letter or they can,
Oh, so
why are you showing up in person?
they have a teleconferencing set up
Yes.
there?
There's been a lot of money for this thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they are expensive.
Well, use it, buddy. Stop all this traveling. Why are you out of town almost more than you're in town? Well, I'm representing you. Oh, we know how that works because we've seen the results of what Cheryl does. Why, the people down here are all saying that they're in favor of these ordinances or whatever.
Well,
Really?
if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Well, okay, I got the perfect answer to that on the table thing because Simon here went off to Washington, D.C. to participate in a gathering the National Association of Counties, where he came back and said almost nothing happened. Well, what a waste that was. And there's this picture put up on the National Association of Counties, a website page, where they're showing during one of their breaks, and they're all drinking. Oh, this is a great idea. Thanks for inviting Simon Hare. And there's this girl that's half dressed and she's dancing around on top of a table. And we're proud to show you. Look at they're enjoying themselves as they're all leering up at this girl.
Yeah, that reminds me of those the GSA operation there, where the guy's sitting in a hot tub with a glass of wine, and they're shooting Star Trek themed skits and all of these goofy things that they waste your money with.
No more wasting money. No more waste. Oh, but I really enjoy going to these things. If you want to go representing yourself only, and you want to spend your own money, feel free.
Yeah.
You go there and tell them you're representing us. You are not, because, well, for all the, okay, so to leave that alone. So one of the things that they know about all of us, aside from this show, one of the things they know, it's true what the previous legal counsel said. Nobody's enforcing the law. Listen, I know I get long lectures from people. Well, the state ought to do this and the state ought to do that. And there's something called the Ethics Commission. Have you ever heard of it? Yes. And well, they're going to step right in because this is bad ethics, including this latest letter sent off by Cheryl Walker and the other two commissioners protesting the whole idea of having rules about hemp, partly because, in my opinion, Cheryl's a hemp investor, a new hemp investor. Guess what? And so is Simon Hare. And then instead of recusing themselves from signing this thing, they decide to send it over. Hey, stop goofing up our business. Okay, so they know that nobody has two nickels as in order to take them to court, because that's all it would take, buddy. One time. Mike said it well yesterday. He says, "You're cutting out the show there." I said, "Yeah, buddy, you really said it." One person brings him to court. Not one goofy person that doesn't have a leg to stand on. One person or one group of people who takes the commissioners to court for something that they found that they absolutely did wrong. A writ of mandamus would do it. I don't have the money to do that. A writ of mandamus says, you have not been doing your job. You must do your job. There's a law about that. And I don't know if it'll come to court here, because generally what lawyers in the area said, I can't represent anything like that in Josephine County. I have to do business here. Really?
Right.
So you call in somebody from out of town. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be that way. 'Twas ever thus. Too bad for us. Okay. We're going to get no help from anybody else. But the one place that where they've got teeth, buddy, this is having teeth. This is playing the piano. Okay, the one place where they have teeth is the Land Use Board of Appeals. Now you may say, well, that's just the last refuge of scoundrels. Why every green, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Sometimes that might be true. But also, you got somebody like Ward Ockenden, who's been fighting for to use his land the way that he wants to out in Maryland for 30 years. He recently won his case. What had happened was he had appealed to LUBA, a decision that the commissioners had made. LUBA remanded the decision back to the commissioners and said, and Ward Ockenden won his day. Okay, so the Land Use Board of Appeals is the same one that's looking at Andreas Blech. Tell us about Andreas Blech there, would you, Mike?
Well, he's the Sunny Valley Sand and Gravel guy who is, wanting to set up a mining operation where they take, river sediment, sand, and gravel, and mine it out of there for use in making concrete and paving products and things of that nature. And an interesting thing, because I was just talking to Sandy Casanelli here yesterday about an operation that's taking place over in the Williams area that's really got a lot of people ticked off because they're crushing rock all day long, and it's very loud and dirty and dusty. And then they're running trucks in there. They're doing like a 24-hour a day thing. And, people are so sleep deprived that they're now having to go get a hotel over in Grants Pass. So, which is, I'm getting out in the weeds here a little bit, but that's
check out the big brain on Mike. When we first started
I listen, I absorb. This is what's going on.
When we first started the show, I say, take it away, Mike. You go, humana. Now, okay, Mike is what you're going to be in just a few more weeks. You ask him to do that, he takes the ball and runs with it. This is you. All you need to do is just keep following along with what happened. We'll show you the videotape. You can check it out for yourself. You don't have to believe me, okay? But you can look at the videotape. You can see for yourself what's happening. We'll keep you as informed as we can, and you can only hope that you're going to be as smart as Mike. Yay, Mike. Well, go for it, buddy.
I personally think that the people in the Sunny Valley area there who are objecting to the situation with Andreas Blech should be referencing the situation that's going on over there in Williams, because that's the best, apples to apples comparison of what's going on there now. And then they should take that information to LUBA, because that's where that case is right now.
Right. Okay. So here's the, sorry, Mike. Here's the pattern that we might recognize. Remember, we were talking to you about this thing where they've really been playing down the words eminent domain. The city, Grants Pass City, has, and they've been given this now, carte blanche, eminent domain power over county residents. Oh, really? Now, when you look at this Allen Creek area, it used to be a fairly short little road that then cut off. I mean, you couldn't go any further.
Right.
The residents there seemed to like that. But the city said, no, wait a minute, we're going to want that to be completely open. Now, it's part of the county. But, eventually we're going to take this over. Yes. In order to take that over, and spend a lot of money, state money out of your pocket on doing this, we're going to need to, run that all the way through. Now, so one of the questions the people there should be asking themselves is, why do they need to run that all the way through? What is the compelling need? Can you connect the dots? Because Simon Hare says he can rarely connect any kind of dots. Connect the dots for us, Mike. Can you do that? What is possible to happen with trucks running all day and all night up and down that little road?
They'll make a lot of noise. They'll wear the street out, etc. I mean, there are a lot of complaints that have to do with the Sunny Valley Sand and Gravel thing, and we don't have time to get into the detail of all of them. But I think the thing that is most concerning to the people right around them is groundwater quality. uh, noise and dust.
Well, Mike's not the kind of guy that would say, "Oh, not the spotted owl." No, 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 that's not who he is. But the
No.
point is that would you like the trucks roaring up and down in front of your house day and night, hauling gravel when you
Right.
bought a home that you were hoping to have a little peace and quiet?
Right. And just to clarify, I'm a business friendly guy. I'm not for running around. And I mean, this is the point that Dale was making a few minutes ago. I think we should barbecue spotted owls. That's a perfect solution to the problem. Let's just get rid of them. Then we don't have to conserve anything for them anymore or whatever. No, I'm fully for this guy Andreas Bleck having his business. However, um, there there's a principle. It's an American principle, if you ask me, that um, do what you can, do what is in your pursuit of happiness, as long as you're not then infringing on somebody else. Your rights end, where you begin to damage somebody else. So, if people's well-being is going to be impacted by this operation, and if it's going to go 24 hours, I mean, that's ridiculous. I don't understand why they're doing that at
For
this other
30 years.
Yeah, I that's weird to me that it would be a 24-hour operation. I mean, if you're just running during normal daylight business hours,
Well, maybe not so wonderful for the kids. Think about the kids, Mike.
yeah.
Look, one other thing is which when you were saying this, impinges on someone else's. What about all of a sudden how there are county officials and all kinds of other people who are suddenly interested in hemp, and it just turns out by coincidence that hemp kills marijuana plants.
Well, it doesn't kill them; it just degrades
Well,
them.
yeah, it
It's
just
like,
makes it so they're unusable. So they're not dead. They're just, he's dead, Jim. No, they're just laying there dormant, no use, and just twitching in the sunshine.
yes, it's to use a really, really politically incorrect analogy, it's like their children are going to be somewhat lesser quality because they're breeding with the relatives from the wrong side of the tracks.
Oh, that is,
Yes.
but that's what Salem thinks that we do down here. Hey, that's what
Yes.
Jackson County thinks that we do over here.
Yes, it's just, listen, it's crop degradation. It's the same situation they're concerned about with GMO stuff, where if you plant GMO here, it will then eventually cross pollinate with the stuff over here, and it's going to ultimately become this crop over here. Well, the same issue happens with marijuana and hemp. I mean, they're both the same plant, but they've been genetically engineered to be one thing or another. With marijuana, they're maximizing the THC. With hemp, it's maximizing the fiber
Yeah, well,
content.
at least biologically engineered, if not genetically engineered.
Yeah,
And
no, that's what I mean.
don't forget the cross pollination thing. We've seen these crazy cases that Monsanto always wins, where some guy way down, miles away, his crop suddenly ends up being pollinated by their aggressive plants, and they sue that guy for growing their plants on his property.
Yes,
What?
I've heard these stories, and
Oh, you think they're false?
oh, I don't think I don't believe there's actually been any court cases where they
Oh,
have
well,
sued somebody. I
hey,
think that's a story. That's a possibility. I may be
uh,
wrong about that, but I think that these are blown up scenarios because
oh,
everybody's favorite whipping boy is Monsanto.
gee, I wonder why. And Monsanto is the main company. Gee, look how all these things are connected, just magically, like our magic budget in the county. Monsanto is one of the prime reasons, and Dow Chemical, that we no longer use hemp to make ropes,
Mm.
because they have a chemical reason for that. Okay, so
Hmm.
here's where I was going. So you appeal to Luba. We're almost done with this, and then we'll talk with this guy, and then we'll put these on, just as a fashion accessory. And so you appeal to Luba, and buddy, they got teeth. And they can say, "Oh no, 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 no! You don't get a chance to do this." And now you're fooling with the state, and they actually enforce their laws. It's amazing. You get caught, and they enforce the laws. That's cause for celebration. And so, what happened that relates to the meeting of Wally Hicks to put on county letterhead something that we've always known, that's written in the state law, that says you may not gather information because it may potentially lead to a decision. And so don't do that. So here you're going to need to listen carefully, because all that's available is the audio. What is it with the commissioners? The video of this is not available. And did you know, parenthetically, while it used to be possible, after Cheryl Walker got in, you cannot buy a DVD from the county. You used to be able to, for any price of the meetings that you've paid for. They will not sell it to you, not at any price. The only way you're going
It's
to
just
see
too
it.
valuable, Dale.
Oh, no. And then sometimes it doesn't appear at all. Gee, guess what? The only way you can see the video is if you watch it live, if you watch it on a little box on your screen, or you watch it on a bigger box on your screen brought to you by us. That's the only way. And we give it to you for free. You can't even buy this from. Okay, so here's the audio recording. Listen carefully. This is Keith Eck talking at a land use hearing about why he stopped researching the Ward Ockenden case that appeared before them on Monday. Listen to this.
Okay, and apologies to begin with for really bad audio.
Oh, listen to the violins in the background.
I must confess, I spent a large amount of time reading this whole report, and then there was a commissioner who came in and said, "Why? What are you?" It said, "Oh, really?" So then, as I started reading it with a little bit more understanding and background, I'm going, "Okay."
Now, what did you just? No, so there's two parts of this, which is Keith Eck is doing research. Wow! Stop the presses. Keith Eck is reading something. He's wanting to be prepared for this land use hearing, and somebody stops him. Why would you stop the guy? Whoa! What are you reading anything for? Really? First of all, it's none of your business. But what's the key statement here, Mike?
Well, it's that somebody else interjected with information,
or not with information. Just says, according to what Keith said, why are you reading that?
Right.
And what was it that he said? I happen to have the exact transcript here. Now, I don't need these, but I may use them just in case, just for effect.
I don't know why. Okay. Listen, I'm younger than Dale is.
Oh, see, I'm not even using them now. See, so there. He says, I must confess, humana, whatever. I spent a large amount of time reading this whole report, and then there was a commissioner who came in. A commissioner who came in and said, why are you reading that? A commissioner who came in. Now, boys and girls, what have we recently been told by Wally Hicks about such a thing?
Well, yeah, they're not supposed to be talking to one another about this kind of stuff outside of an open public meeting.
A land use hearing? Really? They're preparing for a land use hearing, which is easily appealable. I mean, if Ward Ockenden won, so he's not going to appeal anything, but he would have an immediate appeal. Don't forget what Wally Hicks said yesterday in this memo. He said, if you break the law, I know we're breaking the law, and I don't care, says Keith Eck 3 times. If you break the law, any decision that you made that was based on that illegal behavior, commissioners, is voidable. Now, there's something, buddy. And so because the state does nothing to help us, because they think that we're all doing this politically incorrect thing that Mike mentioned earlier, because they don't do anything, but the Land Use Board of Appeals does. And if you come to them and you say, hey, look, the commissioners talked together in an illegal quorum and suggested there was no more need to look at this case, and then they ruled against this guy, immediate appeal.
Yeah, right. And you know what? People should have this front of mind now to keep these people on their toes, because
Yes.
This is the only, you have to have leverage if you're going to influence these people in any way.
We got it now, buddy. We got it now, because we've got the facts in front of us.
Yeah, and it's on the record. And we have them on videotape deliberating about this.
Now, should we expect them to shape up and ship up and do it right? And from now, no. Come on now. You watch this show enough. You know that's not going to happen. But we got them. We got them, and we know, and you know, and soon you're going to know as much as Mike does. I know that sounds kind of pathetic, but you will. And that's a beginning, right, Mike? The hubba.
Yes, thanks for that glowing endorsement there. Yes.
He's a great guy. You know that he is. You know, everybody loves Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, well, okay. So that's our new show called Everybody Loves Mike. So we sat down with the sheriff, Mike and I did, and we had a long conversation with him about a variety of topics. And one of the things that we know about our sheriff now is that there are some people who just don't like him. They didn't like him before, they don't like him now, and they're going to just be saying negative things about him all the time. And they bring up questions where we go, oh, that's a pretty, is that true? That's a pretty interesting question. And they've asked a couple of things like, is it true that, religious materials can't be passed out at the jail? And is it true that the jail inmates are locked down 23 hours a day? You saw the exercise room, or we can go outside. Well, it's not really outside, it's still inside, but it's got this skylight. Wow. And there are other people saying, just throw away the key, who cares, and don't even feed them, just starve them to death. Okay. And then there's the question about Ed Vincent, who also ran for county commissioner. And obviously these guys got along very well. You could see that Gil Giberson didn't really like either one of them. I mean, you could tell just from the way they were talking to each other and shaking hands, and Gil didn't want to have anything to do with that. Okay, whatever. So there was a question about why was Ed Vincent placed in charge of the jail. I don't know why anybody cared, but there are people who do. So let's just take a look at our discussion, okay, Mike, with the sheriff every Friday.
Something that's come up recently is people have been talking about the inmates at the jail and how long every day they stay locked up. Mm-hmm. Can you give us an update about that and why?
Yeah, it depends on classification of the inmate. You talked about the Measure 11, the real serious offenders, the violent offenders. The problem inmates, they go into a cell basically for 23 hours a day, provided light, obviously food, all that. But they go out into an exercise yard for about an hour a day. Of those inmates, we have, I think there's probably between 25 and 30, somewhere in there right now, in that range out of the 130 we currently are incarcerating. There are certain situations where if you have fights, or if you have, say, drugs that are, brought illegally into the facility by someone that's being booked in, where we can lock down the different pods so they can actually do the same thing as well. It's kind of situationally dependent on that. And there's no real Oregon jail standard per se for that I'm aware of, when you can and when you can't. Recently, if we had for about, it was 4 days, I think it was 3 or 4 days, we did lock down an entire pod due to drugs and then fights. So, because obviously.
So how does that differ from the policy as it relates to non-Measure 11 inmates? In terms of the time that they have out of the cell?
Well, they could have potentially, almost all the time out of the cell, except for sleeping hours. They can, and even sometimes there's different areas, and I can be happy to show you the situation, no issue, where there's just like barracks as well. So they're truly out, 24 hours a day. Not necessarily outside. They go outside for an hour a day, but they have free reign within their different pods. So the lockdown is just in with their kind of their sleeping quarter is what we're talking about there. And it doesn't, other than the serious inmates, it doesn't happen that often.
So this idea of being locked down 23 hours a day, is this a new policy? Is this just
No,
recent bad inmates? What's
been going on since this jail was built. That's just how the correctional system works. If you got a rapist or a murderer or a violent offender, you're just, for safety and security of the facility, not only employees of the facility, but the other inmates. You have to kind of segregate that.
I get it.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
If I were serving 30 days for some, domestic dispute or something like that, I wouldn't want to be having to worry about somebody thumping me from behind or something. So I get it. That's more for the protection of the rest of the inmates, I think.
How is that thumping from behind problem going? I mean, it happens in every jail.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. It is, I guess it is what it is. We try and classify inmates. We try and see behaviorals. Just the other day, one of my corrections deputies brought a person in that was being booked in and lodged, walked into one of the pods, and the pod went dead silent. And it was that, what do we have here? Immediately, that person was brought back out and sent to a different location. And it's worked out fine. So you have that. It's a matter of history. It's a matter of that feeling of what's going on, and also talking to the inmates, and getting information too. So we deal with it. It's on a regular basis as far as trying to make sure things are safe as we can.
There's now a question about, somehow it seems that there's a new rule about distribution of religious materials. What's up with this?
Yeah. There was no new rule. There was no new rule at all. The incident you're talking about was one of our inmates who was, he was arrested for rape in the first degree, and he requested a Catholic Bible. Well, we didn't have any Catholic Bibles here. We have just it's just the New Testament or the King James version of it. And he didn't want that. He wanted the Catholic Bible. We told him basically, it's not a problem. You can have a Catholic Bible, have somebody from the outside send it to you. We'll check it for safety, and then we'll give it to you. And that's exactly what happened. And that's the issue you're talking about, that there was some scuttlebutt over we weren't providing religious material. We didn't provide religious material in the form of a Catholic Bible to him. We provided the other version.
I'm not a Catholic, so I don't know what the difference is. But
there are different books in the Catholic Bible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the issue, and we took care of it just that way. His family sent him a Catholic Bible, and he got it.
So is there any validity at all to any of the, rumors or the people that are saying things about religious freedom inside the
No,
jail?
there absolutely is not any validity to that, those rumors that I'm aware of. I would like to bring in in the previous administration, they took out the pastors that were able to come in and talk to the people inside here. And I want to start that again. That's something I think it's doable. Keep in mind, we're down to a skeleton crew. I mean, it's, we had a person call in sick today, and it just shrinks us even more.
So it requires extra personnel that you assign when somebody from the outside is in there.
It does, but I think it can be done maybe a little differently than it's been done in the past, where maybe you have 4 or 5 inmates speaking to a pastor in a room, or you have to have some deputy watching them. I might be able to do it like in the attorney-client area, where there's a little screen between them, but then it's just a matter of buzzing a person in. It's not as, I guess, friendly, but
but it's safer and
absolutely
doesn't require the extra personnel.
The person, the person power.
How much privacy can you actually give to someone who wants to confess to their priest or something like that?
Complete privacy. Same with the attorneys. The attorneys come in here and they get complete privacy with their clients in the same light.
But there's a rule in Oregon where you can watch, but you can't record audio. Is that the way it works here? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Right, because you're going to watch if someone's in there with a
our facility.
assault them.
Yeah, our facility is you can. There's audio throughout, except for those. We can record throughout, except for the attorney client area.
So that would be potentially where a member of the clergy would go.
Yes, that's my ideally, and that would be also the easiest way for us to try to manage the movement of the clergy when they come in.
So is there any special problem or challenge with someone of the Jewish faith? Because somebody was mentioning that the other day, and I don't know whether that's right or not. No,
there would be, it'd be available to all.
This is not a huge city, so there's not going to be something like it might happen in New York where someone wants to practice their Santeria religion where you got to kill a live chicken or something like that. Well, okay, but
there has to be lines, it has to be barriers there, you can't,
Well, but that's their, that's their faith, apparently so. And I think it's a little strange, but that's just me.
Well, maybe they shouldn't have done the crime then.
This is they would merely be a verbal exchange between, there'd be no chickens.
Yeah. No chickens. Unless you're going to share with everybody.
Yeah. Or if you're Rika and you want to beat your dog with a chicken. Yes, right. Okay. Oh, it's a long story. We'll share that video with you. It's a classic. Ed Vincent, to me, seemed like a really good guy. I liked him very much. And you guys were getting along very well on the campaign trail. And many times the two of you would be talking and the previous sheriff just wasn't talking with you. You seemed to be pals. Now Ed Vincent has another role in your organization. There are some people who are saying, oh, wait a minute, was he really qualified for that? And while you probably can't talk a lot about personnel matters, and I already said that I like the guy, how big a stretch was it to put Ed Vincent in that position, and what position are we talking about?
Basically jail. He's the sergeant, jail sergeant in charge. He's running the jail. I downsized. I didn't think we needed a captain all the way up there at the highest rank, to do that. I thought for a long time during the campaign and even after. I don't know how long after, but what I was going to do with that position, because of the appearance of bringing someone on the campaign trail with you, and I thought, number one, is he qualified? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. He understands this jail, how it functions and operates inside and out, and all the different PREA rules and things like that we need to adhere to. But then, even on top of that, I looked at why he ran, and it was for similar reasons that I did. It was because we saw a county in distress, and it wasn't, or at least it didn't have the appearance of getting any better. So basically you go all in and you just say, I'm going to do everything I can to try and make this county a better place, public safety wise. And so he's very, very dedicated, and not necessarily to me. He's dedicated to the position. He ran against me. I mean, he wanted it over me, but I don't hold that against him, because he did it for the same reason I did, and I wanted it over him. But I knew that he would do fine if he got into that position as well. So that was basically it, and it's been a fantastic fit. The morale has gone up in the organization, clearly, in my opinion. And there's sometimes it's just little things you do, to try and make things better. Get people to the academy for training. It seems pretty standard around industry-wide, but it wasn't here. We hadn't nobody gone to the academy. Nobody was going to any training, so it's a matter of trying to find those funds and make it a more professional environment. And when you do that, you naturally increase morale. People feel more valued.
It's obvious that when we're asking you a question, as opposed to the Daily Courier, for example, that it might seem like we're waiting for you to make a mistake, but you did just say.
What's that?
You said that morale is better. Was morale not so good with the previous jail commander, and why would that be?
I don't know if I would put it on the jail commander in general. Morale went real bad, and I hesitate to go throw it on any one person. They went through massive cuts in 2012, and they had been, just beat down and beat down and beat down and beat down, and that in and amongst itself is going to create people calling in sick and and not showing up to work and that type of thing. And when you do that, then it creates even a more difficult environment to work in, because you don't know exactly what you're doing day to day. So yeah, I think overall, I think I could say that it's just this scenario, just the way it worked.
You know why I asked? Because there are some people who are saying, hey, what was wrong with the previous jail commander? We thought that she was doing a pretty good job. Well,
everybody has issues. I'm not perfect. Ed's not perfect. My lieutenant's not perfect. And I think there's always room for change and room for improvement. That was a decision to make that change that I made, and to this day I stand by it.
And there you have it.
Well, you notice that one of the things that we do that's a little bit different is you're not going to hear anybody else say, what was wrong with the previous commander? Well, that's the way we deal with this. And we're going to ask questions that you're asking. And if we can sit down with this guy every Friday, or we can talk with Wally Hicks, we're going to be asking him questions. And it's not going to be, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would it be? Now, he had mentioned something about when the previous jail commander, who was a captain, was replaced by a sergeant, there was some savings of money. And yesterday in the little back room at the admin meeting, the sheriff went to extol the virtues of a new piece of software that he'd like. And of course, one of the questions is it going to work with other software? Is it going to be this debacle of $600,000 plus for one piece of software that doesn't work and you need to throw the whole thing out? Is it going to be something like that? They did mention that as an example because the commissioners were involved in that up to their neck, okay? But they did ask him about this, and he said, yes, it will work. And here's one of the things it's supposed to do. Remember the example he gave you of the guy that came into the cell and everybody stopped? Well, that's probably because that guy was a member of a rival gang. And if they had left that guy in there, he probably wouldn't have survived more than a few minutes. Rival gang. What this software does is it keeps track of 100 different little things about as they're checked in. And then it says, not a good idea to put this in cell block 300. What they're thinking is that they caught this because of the reactions of the people in the room. Luckily, somebody was paying attention to the lack of conversation. So what he's hoping is that this is going to make running the jail easier, more efficient, and safer for everybody, including the personnel.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. And
if that's what it does.
Well, yes, yeah, right, if it works. And he says others are using it, and it seems to be working well for them. And we have some money left over from the downsizing, and we did this by eliminating a position. Okay, that's something that the unions would be very happy about, but that's where the extra money came from. And so cost-saving measures, yeah, we know what you're talking about, Sheriff. You eliminated somebody's position or you downsized it. So we're going to be asking him these kinds of questions so that you can count on hearing, as the bosses that you are, as the authorities to which government must answer, not the other way around. We're going to see that these people do it without toasting them their tootsies too much. Mike, you have any closing things to say here? Mike's about to spend the rest of the day, woohoo, just a few hours here with somebody in his family that's having a birthday. You don't need to say all about it, but once you're done with this show, you're free to roam about the country.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes.